Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. These are the Fox Knives Eastwood Tiger, designed by, forgive me please, Gutty Van Poppel, or Gutty Van Poppel. I'm really not sure how to pronounce the designer's name, and I am certain that I butchered it, so I'm sorry about that. These were sent to me for review by Tools for Gents. Thank you so much for sending these in so that I could take a look at them. I will link them right down below. This one up here is a liner lock version, and this one is the titanium frame lock version. They are available in many different configurations, so I'll make sure and link Tools for Gents down below so you guys can take a look at these knives if you want to. It does help my channel when you use my links, but that is entirely up to you. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. I'm gonna move this guy out of the way and we'll bring it back here in a sec. We'll just kind of keep that way, we kind of simplify it here. Overall measurement, these are made by Fox Knives in Italy, as far as I can tell by the listing. And there's a lot of things here that really scream Fox Knives as well. But there's also some surprising things. So overall length is coming in big boy, 8.85 inches overall. Blade length is about it's not quite 3.75, it's about 3.7. Cutting edge is 3.6 inches. How about some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. So you can see here, this is absolutely a big knife. Let's put it up against the Demco AD 20.5. How about the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? Definitely bigger than both. And then last but not least, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Out. All right. How's the action, right? It's a Fox knife. So how's the action? There's plenty of room for disengagement right here. This is very easy to disengage, no double clutch. It does need some encouragement. This guy feels a little bit smoother than this guy is a little more free swinging, I guess. But I'm hearing that, you know what I mean? It's okay. What I think is the best is it's not necessarily the detent. The detent strength is about medium, and it's kind of a thuddy click, right? This guy's a little bit better. It's the leverage you get off the flipper tab, which is actually pretty good. It is far from the most amazing thing that I have felt, but usually my experience with Fox Knives, and I'll admit I haven't handled a lot of stuff from them here lately, but it's like poor leverage off the flipper tab, poor flipper tab design, light detent, and sloppy action, and it just leaves a lot to be desired. These guys, pretty okay. There are knives that cost less that have better action for sure. There are some redeeming things here, but there's some other things I want to talk about. But the action is all right. It's mainly, I think, the length and mass of the blade and the leverage you get off the flipper tab that creates that finally that feeling of satisfaction. Everything else is kind of, it's okay, right? It's important to note that, well, we'll talk about that more, but these are both in S90V. They have less expensive versions in D2, but they're still very expensive. So honestly, the versions that I would suggest you look at are the S90V versions. But anyways, let's go ahead and do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's really not all that thick of a knife. It's just slightly thicker than the Para 3. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3, you can see here. This guy's going to be fairly large in the pocket. It's a little bit longer than the PM2 in some areas. It's approaching the same height. You're definitely going to notice it. The guy that's made out of the fat carbon here, I think this is lava flow fat carbon. It's going to be a little bit lighter. It's not quite as much titanium. This guy, you're definitely going to notice it. So just keep in mind that's definitely going to be the case there. Let's go ahead and weigh it. I'll weigh both of them here. So for materials, we are looking at, in this case, it's titanium and some pretty cool texturing. And then we have Cerakoted hardware. We have a full titanium backspacer Cerakoted. We have Cerakoted pocket clip, red. So that's pretty cool. And then we have an S90V blade, which is nice. I'm really happy to see that because, you know, everything seems to be an M390 nowadays. So the heavier guy here, and by the way, on the inside, we are not looking at any internal milling. So this titanium one's going to be pretty heavy. Yeah, 7 ounces. Wow, it's going to be a heavy knife. Balance. Yeah, it's a little butt heavy, a little bit. You're going to notice this, right? If you've been carrying larger knives, this might not bother you. If you've been carrying smaller knives, it's obviously going to be a little bit heavy for you. This guy, less, but not that less. 5.9, it's a 6 ounce knife. I bet it's balanced a little bit better. It's just slightly, right? Right there in the middle. So this guy's going to be a little better balanced. All right, let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. I am realizing at this moment that my fatty, there it is, the fatty driver, I got to complete the sentences. I thought it was lost. Anyways, let's go ahead and check the hardware. But yeah, you can find the stuff down in the description there. T8 for the pivot, most likely going to be the case. There we go. And then these are going to be all T6, which is not my favorite, but it's pretty minimal. And this is a simple frame lock construction. So as long as you have quality tools and a place to put your hardware, you should be good to go. Let's check the blade stock thickness and then get into the meat and potatoes here. I'm going to guess that's 155 thousandths. That's what it looks like to me. And what do we got? What do we got? Oh, almost right on the money. I bet my caliper's off. It's probably 155. Okay. Pretty good looking knife. I was immediately very impressed with the aesthetic. And honestly, ergonomically, it's also very comfortable. The pocket clip, it's almost too shallow of a bill, which is something I almost never say. This pocket clip is not going to bother you at all until you try to push it into your pocket, and it's going to kind of mash into your pocket seam, right? But ergonomically, very comfortable. You could choke up here. It's kind of risky. It does feel really good in hand. And honestly, maybe the action after a while will get a little bit better. It just feels a little bit, I think this guy feels a little more consistent. It just feels a little bit tight, right? But the flip is good. Access to the lock bar is good. And the flipper tab is very rounded off, so no annoyance there. Got a flat area here. We got some texturing here. There is a more expensive version of this with an inlay right here. I like to see Cerakoted, hardware. I think that's cool. We don't see it enough. Eventually that will wear off, but it's nice to have. Like, that's the only way to get red, because you can't anodize titanium or steel to be red. It's only aluminum, and obviously you don't want the hardware being made out of aluminum. So that looks cool, but there's a bunch of different versions of these. And the lava flow or the magma flow carbon fiber also looks really good. This is definitely high quality. It's not just kind of slapped together. This is fat carbon. It's really, really good. And the execution, honestly, is pretty good too. Fox knives have always felt a little, but everything looks good. The cutting bevel is still a little bit sloppy in some areas. Sorry, my fingernails are super dirty right now, but we got a little bit wider. It's okay. It's not bad, right? It's just with the rest of the world, right? They're talking about USA made stuff, Chinese stuff, Taiwanese stuff. Everything is just very laser accurate here as of late. And so seeing little areas like that is a little bit bothersome. The rest of the blade is pretty good. It's a nice, big, heavy, I don't know if we want to call this a clip point, right? I mean, it's kind of a modified drop point. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Prominent flat that carries out about 55-60% the length of the blade. They do have a few different options. You can get the coated blade, the non-coated blade. It is S90V. I mean, it's gonna make more sense for the D2 version, but the D2 version, I honestly don't really even want to consider it, because it's like, what the heck, the price for, unless I didn't look close enough, I think it's just ingot D2. I don't think it's even CPM D2. So not really talking about that one today. But this is S90V steel, and S90V is absolutely a premium steel, one of the most premium steels on the market right now. If it's heat treated properly, heavy emphasis on that, because I do not have Rockwell testing equipment. There's not a way for me to do that. Fortunately, we have lots of people in the community who are very, very good at that and can actually provide professional expertise, the likes of which you can't get here on my channel. But assuming they heat treat this correctly, S90V is a wonderful steel. Excellent edge retention, still a stainless steel, and reasonably tough considering how good the edge retention is. I've had a great experience with it after giving it a second shot. So very good. So it's nice to see that, definitely. I just wish the cutting bevel was a little bit more even. On this side, it's not quite as bad. And honestly, on this side, it's more the same story. It's a little bit ugly back here, and then it's okay everywhere else, right? Fox Knives Italy. This is a special edition run for Tools for Gents. That's a logo right there. So you can see these are limited run. The edge feels good. It's not super thin behind the edge, but it's thin enough that it'll do your regular EDC style tasks, right? So that's pretty much it for the blade. The machining quality of the titanium and the carbon fiber and the liner and all of that is really, really good. I like that the liner is nested on this guy, and you can see there underneath it is nested and also milled out. These are steel, to my knowledge, not titanium, and that is absolutely the case. The magnet definitely likes the knife here. But yeah, it is nested, and the machining quality of the scales, whether it be the carbon fiber or the titanium, everything is good. You know, the fit and finish is all good in that department. Backspacer looks good. I like the gear pattern there. The pocket clip is slightly nested into the titanium, which is kind of cool. It's kind of a goofy pocket clip, but the carry depth is decent. It's about medium here. It just has such a shallow bill, right? Which is going to make it difficult getting it in and out of the pocket in some cases. But once you get it over the seam of your pocket, it'll be good to go. There is no position for lefties. Sorry, lefties, they just didn't do it for you. This guy has a steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop because it is an exposed frame lock. You can see the stop pin is actually located internally, which is fine. It's a good way to do that. This guy is the same exact story, located internally. Excuse me. Sorry. This does not need an over travel stop because it's a nested liner lock, so you have, the scale covering it. Lockup percentage here, you can see, is probably about 50%. Let's check the tang of the blade, which is really dirty. But yeah, there's plenty of lock. I want to see if I can wipe some of that out of there. I wonder what that is. It looks like just debris maybe from the carbonization. It's actually, the blade face has just got some gunk on it. I don't know. I could probably clean it out with something, but it looks like it's locking up. The liner lock version here looks like it's locking up at something like 50%. The titanium frame lock version is locking up also at about 50%. This one always also has a dirty face, maybe? I don't know. They must have something on there. But yeah, it looks like it's locking up at about 50%. Okay, here's the part that I want to talk about. This guy was in an episode of 5 Cool Knives. And I never noticed this. It didn't do this when I got it. It wasn't doing it during that video. So I'm wondering if the lock bar got to a certain point and found a pocket that wasn't cut correctly. And by that I mean, can we hear it? That is the lock bar. So I was like, what? Maybe I just didn't check it. But, that's why we wait. And then the review has all the information in it. This guy has pretty serious lock rock. Pretty serious. That chip was not cut correctly. This guy, the liner lock, solid. No lockup issues. Totally solid, right? Neither of them have, lock stick or anything like that. Neither of them have any detent lash. Just fine. Neither of them have pivot lash. And like I said, the actual pivot action is okay on both. This one feels a little more consistent. This one feels a little more, right? That's probably debris getting caught between the detent ball and the face of the blade. It could be lubricated up. I didn't put any tane weight on here. That might help it a little bit. But yeah, lock rock on this. The other thing, this guy was fine on the lockup, but the centering's off. Initially, I thought, no problem. I'll just unscrew the pivot or tighten it up. That didn't fix it. So I did the trick with the piece of paper, the pivot, and the body screws, which fixes centering about 95% of the time. Also did not fix it, which means that there's something warped, some part of the frame, pivot, something, the blade or something like that. There's something that's a little bit goofy in there. Fit and finish issue. So we got a fit and finish issue here. We got a lock rock issue here. Huge problem. That should not be the case. Lock rock is unacceptable. Unacceptable. I have seen some case. I'm not saying that Fox knives have been like, oh, yeah, it's totally fine. I'm not saying that's the case, but I have seen in some cases some knife makers, some OEMs, where they're like, oh, a little bit of lock rock's not that bad. I disagree completely. On a frame lock, one that depends on perfect geometry. Like, I mean, you're talking about lock-up solidity. A lot of people say, oh, well, yeah, if you're using your knife in an unrealistic scenario, in a scenario where you are cutting into very, very dense material and you are pulling the blade back out or wrenching it back out, sometimes as you wiggle or twist the knife to get it back out, you're putting pressure on the spine. If the lock-up geometry, the lock face geometry, is not optimized, is not optimal, is not solid, there is potentially, a situation where you could cause close-up on your fingers, right? It's 2023. Maybe we got two rare goof-ups, right? Maybe you have this knife and yours is perfect. Maybe you got the titanium frame lock version, yours is perfect. This isn't subtle lock rock. It's locked out. It's rattle. This is not contacting. It's not full contact on the tang face, right? Can't have that. It's 2023. These should be solid. There's a chance that both of these are goofballs, and this is like a less than 1%. Ideally it'd be way less than 1%, error ratio. But this cannot happen. All of these should be, perfect. Obviously, you can leave a little bit of room for, anything that's, anything that's being made right now. There's a chance for error on anything, but now lockup is extremely important. If this guy had perfect lockup solidity, I would actually be very, very happy with this. Other than the goofiness on the cutting bevel, right? Everything else is pretty good. I'll even choke down the less than perfect. The action's okay because of the leverage off the flipper tab, right? These come in at, like the titanium one here that you're looking at is 296 euros, so add 6 or 7%. I can't remember what it is. It changes all the time, right? And manufactured in Italy, so it's not the worst price. It's not like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's not the worst price I've ever seen, especially considering if inflation is affecting everybody. The carbon fiber version that you're looking at here is 269 euros. The lowest price, I think it was like a yellow nuclear something or other dark matter carbon fiber. It was 251 euros. All not bad prices if we have things like perfect centering and obviously perfect lockup. I'll tell you this. If the final cutting bevels were perfect, the action was slightly better, and I mean just the smoothness inside the pivot. We had centered, a centered tip, right? Honestly, I'd be pretty happy, but there's just one too many things here, especially the lock, right? Everything else about this knife could have been perfect, but that is a huge, that's worth a lot of points on the grading scale of a knife review. Lock rock is not good. If you're going to do a frame lock, it's got to be perfect. There should be no movement whatsoever. Now, I'm not talking about like you could swing the knife into a brick wall or put the handle of the knife in a vise and beat on the spine with a sledgehammer. Obviously, you're going to get movement there. I'm talking about just natural, right? Just like being able to use your hands and wiggle it. It should be completely solid, no movement whatsoever in any direction. That's a good. And then I would say somewhere between 20 and 50% lockup. Anything earlier than 20% makes me a little nervous, but 20, maybe 25 to 50%, and good lock face geometry with little to no stick. A little bit of stick's okay because it works itself out, but now it's just too much. I think this is, it's not even that it's too steep. Let's take a look at it because everything's so dark. It is pretty steep though. I feel like this is a thing with Fox knives, and I don't want to say all Italian knives, but why the steep tang face, the lock face of the blade? Why? I mean, I understand the more flat you make it, the more likely it is to develop lock stick. I think I'd rather have a little bit of lock stick and have it lock up solid than have no lock stick and have a steep tang that just slips all the time, right? Could be that the tension on this guy is just not enough to push that lock bar over, right? It's just got light tension. But now, I mean, at this point, if we already have lock rock, we're not supposed to have lock rock until this is all the way over after like a couple of decades of use, right? This needs a new chip and needs to be cut correctly. That's it. But I would say if all of these, the lock face of the blades, all of them are cut this steep, and it shouldn't be cut that steep. I don't make knives. I don't manufacture this stuff. I don't do this kind of, but it's geometry, right? So that's unfortunate because these were pretty cool. Outside of that, this is one of my favorite designs I've seen from Fox. It's just the execution of it was just kind of, darn it. They're available, and like I said, it's possible that these were just not very good examples, right? So if you want to roll the dice, you can. Check out Tools for Gents. They're limited edition. But that's going to be pretty much it. Kind of a bummer there with these. Where's my card? Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. I guess the card, we'll use the metal one today because the other one keeps leaving my presence. Oh, there we go. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.